Hello guys, this is Bismarck and welcome back to another session on Rxjava tutorials. So for the past few sessions we have been talking about combining operators in Rxjava. As recorded, we talk about merge operator in Rxjava, and today I would like to touch on switch operator in Rxjava. I have been doing some background search on switch operator and I have seen that switch operator tutorials or explanation on switch operator on internet is very less. It's not many. As a result, it has pushed me to delve more into it, and it came out that switch operator is an operator which is a bit confusing but not that confusing. So follow up with me and we will just understand the switch operator and how it is used. Okay, so what switch operator is? Switch operator is an operator that converts an observable that emits observables into a single observable. Okay, into a single observable that emits an item emitted by a recently emitted item. And the definition kind of confuses. Yes, it's actually confuses. So let me try to use the Rxjava marble or the RS marble so that it best helps us for the with the understanding. Okay, so let's see. Wait, this is, let's say, a diagram describing the switch operator. So from the definition, a switch operator converts an observable that emits observable into a single observable that emits the item emitted by the most recently emitted of those items. And all that it means is, look at this timeline from the diagram. Look at the timeline, this timeline. So each of the observable, so on this timeline, it is an observable source, okay, that is emitting an observable. So each item emitted is an observable, okay. Each of the item emitted on this timeline is an observable. So look at this. At this point, okay, on the first point here, if you can see my mouse on the first point here, there's an item, but this item is an observable, and this observable is also emitting an items. So these are the items emitted in the timeline. So considering the first observable, it will emit the pink item, then goes on emit the light green item, then it goes to the yellow. But before the yellow comes, the second observable, the second item, which is also an observable, starts its emission, and the yellow triangle starts coming in. As a result, before the yellow circle emitted, okay, the second item, which is also an observable, has started emission, and that is the first yellow triangle. So the yellow triangle actually start coming, and what it does is the switch operator will switch the subscription from the first item to the second item. Of course, they are all the items are observables, okay. So the switch operator will switch the subscription from the first item to the second item. So as a result, because the operator has switched the subscription from the first item, now the yellow item will not emit anymore. So it will start with the second item emission, then it goes on and so forth until it ends. So if you look at the downstream, you will see that the yellow circle didn't emit, okay. It was hung up, like it didn't emit. So that's how the switch operator works. And let's look at further explanation. The switch subscribes to an observable that emits observables each time it observes one of these item observable. The observable returned by the switch unsubscribed from the previously emitted observable begins emitting in item from the latest observable. And all that it means is always it look out for the latest observable. So for instance, since we have this is just two items. For instance, if we had, let's say, three items, and the three items started emission from here, then the light green triangle wouldn't have emitted, because as at that time the operator has switched its subscription from the second observable to the third observable. Okay, so let's go into the coding and let's try to understand with practice. Now we have the switch operator. So for instance, we have our observable, this is our observable, and I'm using interval observable source. And anytime the interval observable source start emission, I'll try to log this so that it will help us in understanding, the rudiments and what goes into it. So once this will be considered as the mother observable. Once it starts its emission, then I will log emitted by outer source. Okay, so let's go on with the second observable. So we can do this. Observable dot switch on next. So on the switch on next, it takes observable source. So we have our integer observable, and this is considered as the parent. So let me name it as, let me rename it so that it best explains itself. So we have parent observable source, and this so we map it using a map operator. Let's return observable dot interval. Okay, and here let's use 1 second. And with this, when it subscribes, so do on subscription, let's try to do on subscription. When it starts subscribing, what should we do? So let's also print something to the console so that we know that it has started its subscription. So let's print emission started, subscription started, sorry. Subscription started. Okay, subscription started. Then let's subscribe. Okay, so relate items. So these are the items that will be relayed to the downstreams, to the downstream. Okay, let's collect our subscription. That's why it is highlighted in yellow. Okay, so disposer. Okay, now or we can collect this as our outer subscription, so that we get the explanation. will be outer subscription. Child observable. Okay. Okay, so what is it saying? Okay, so now we have this will be the parent observable and this is the child observable. So what is going to happen is the parent observable starts emission in every 3 seconds. Okay, in every 3 seconds, and once the emission has started, let's say it I'll run it so that we all get to see the example that I'm talking about. But once the emission has started, so let's say it start counting from 1. Then after 1, before 2 will come, it will wait for 3 seconds. In between the 3 seconds, so in between the 3 seconds, then the child operator will also start its emission. So let's run this so that we can get the understanding. Okay, so let's run this right now. Okay, so it's running. Okay, okay. So we could see right now here the first item. If you could check the logins, you could see before the parent item start emission. So when the parent started item start emission, these are the items. So these are the logs. So emitted by the outer source, and this is the item 0. Then once it start emission, then you see that the inner item, let me here is supposed to be child source. Let's run this again so that we get the explanation. So the whole concept about the switch is as the name implies, it switches from one operator, one observable to different observable. So as the name implies. Okay, so here it comes. Now the parent observable starts emission, and that is emitted by the outer source 0 when it has emitted. Okay, and once it has emitted, it will wait for 2 seconds. So in between, you could see that the child emission also starts its emission in an interval of 1 second, and now 0 1 came. Then after 0 1, the parent observable starts its emission again. Now it moves to 1. Then after 1 was printed, or after 1 was emitted, then the child observable was subscribed then again, and it goes on to emit its item 0 and 1. Then the item yes, the outer observer also starts emitting again, and goes on and so forth. So that is how the switch operator actually works. That is how it works. Okay, so at the end of the day, you could see that this is just a guide, but you will see that the child items will be the one that are going to be emitted. Okay, so let's look at this. So right now I think we are using intervals. So for instance, let's use the same example, but then we are not going to use infinite observables, but we are going to use finite one. So with a finite one, we can, instead of intervals, let's use, let's say, range. Okay, starting from 1 to the ninth count, and this is supposed to be, is going to be an integer. So observable of integer, integer, integer. Okay, and then again, let's make this also, uh let's make this also, we can maintain, you can also try from your end, but then you can maintain the integer, the infinite one, but then I want to start using the range so that we see how it works with various examples to 12. Okay, and this is supposed to be integer. Yes, and then again we have this also supposed to be an integer. Integer. Nice. Now let's run this and see the behavior. Let's run this and see the behavior. Okay, so okay, yes, so it's done running. So guys, this is, you see, this is not waiting for any time, and as I said, with the range, is not, unless maybe you are subscribing or you are doing the work on a different thread, even that makes it even more faster. Right now it's not waiting, it's not being delayed, it is not doing, emitting the item at any interval, it's just emitting the item. So that's why it just finished running. So you could see the item was emitted here, the parent item, the parent observable starts its emission. Then after the one was emitted, okay, as one was emitted, then the inner item, the inner observable source also got subscribed. After it got subscribed, and it tried to emit the items of the inner items or the child observable into the downstream. So that's why we have 1, 2, up to 12. So when it is done, then it goes on to the parent again to start its emission. Then after it emits, then you will see that the child observable also start its emission. So it goes in that loop. Okay, it goes in that cycle. Yes. So the switch operator, in conclusion, you could see that the switch operator is nothing but an operator that switch in between observable based on the latest item emitted. Based on the latest item emitted. If I'm to go further to explain, you could see always when it starts emitting maybe the one, and when it starts emitting, it will trigger the child observable to also start emitting. So when the child observable starts its emission, then the operator will switch, because now the child observable has become the latest emissions, or okay, its items have become the latest emission. Then the switch operator will switch to the latest emission, which is the child observable. Then when it is done, the parent will become the latest emission, because it will also emit. So in that order. So this is a bit confusing, but then if you take your time and we delve more into it, read about it, and even with this example I've demonstrated, it will lessen the confusion. Okay, so guys, so thank you for subscribing to for staying up with me, and I will entreat you guys to subscribe to my channel so that you get the latest tutorials on Rxjava. Anything concerning Rxjava is being treated on this channel. Okay, and don't forget, if you have any comment, if you have any suggestion, any comment on any other topic that you think is a bit confusing, don't hesitate. You could send me a mail. You can send me a mail, or you can write it in the comment box, and I'll be glad to help. Thank you guys for staying up with me, and have a happy coding.